Something is happening in Kansas City, Missouri. Right here at Children's Mercy Hospital, located at 2401 Gillum Road, just south of downtown Kansas City. A team of dedicated professionals delivers some of the best clinical and comprehensive care in the country.
I'm getting a blood transfusion because I had a stroke 2 years ago that caused me to go to the ER, and then they suggested in order to prevent another stroke from happening and keep my sickle cell levels down. It doesn't affect me as much as it does other people. Then again, there's like different forms of sickle cell. Some people have it worse than I do. Some people have it like the same as me.
What is sickle cell disease?
Sickle cell disease is an inherited condition. It primarily affects the African American population, but it affects other populations. Hispanic, folks from India, of course from Africa, the Caribbean. I've had Caucasian patients who've had it. It's something you're born with. It's something that doesn't go away. It's a blood disorder, and it affects the red cells. The red cells are cells in your blood that carry oxygen to all parts of the body. So sickle cell can affect any part of the body, because what happened with sickle cell is instead of the red cells being round and pliable that can navigate through the small blood vessels, the red cells sickle. That's how the name was coined. They're hard, they're friable, they can break down, but they also can block off blood flow to any part of the body, to the brain, to the spleen, to the liver, to any muscles. And if you block off blood flow to any part of the body, then you're not delivering oxygen to that part of the body, and then that injures those cells in that area.
I provided a red blood cell exchange for Emmanuel. He has sickle cell anemia. Emmanuel has a port in his chest that it leads directly into the right atrium, and it allows us to get good blood flow out of there. So we put 2 needles in there. One pulls the blood out, puts it through our circuit. So our circuit is a series of pumps. One pump pulls the blood out, one pump returns the blood, one pump adds an anticoagulant, which just keeps those cells from clotting while they're out in the circuit. And then the other pump puts the red blood cells back, the fresh donor cells, puts those into the circuit. So it's a series of pumps that does that, and a centrifuge. So in the bottom is a centrifuge, spins very quickly. I think it's like 2,400 RPMs. And so, and in doing that, it pushes all the red cells to the bottom because they're the heaviest. And then it puts the white blood cells, the stem cells, and the platelets right in the middle. And then the plasma is the lightest piece, and it floats to the top. And then depending on what I am collecting, whether it's red blood cells or plasma, different valves on the machine open to determine what gets collected and what gets returned to the patient.
U.S. News & World Report rated the Hematology, Oncology, and Bone Marrow Transplant Program at Children's Mercy as one of the nation's leading programs for kids. Dr. Gerald Woods said, "When you come to Children's Mercy, you feel that aura. Everybody is on the same page."
I mean, people are tuned into the kids and the patients.
I love these patients. I mean, obviously, for almost 20 years doing this role, they are my passion, and I learn from them, they learn from me, and that's what makes me enjoy coming to work every day, is because these families are so awesome. The patients, their parents, their extended family, and for them to think so highly of us and trust us with their children, that makes me happy, and it makes you a little emotional too, that they think so highly of you and trust you so much. So I think the kids are wonderful, and I love the kids and their families.
I've worked at Children's Mercy more than half my life, and it's because of that family concept and that team concept, yes, that I would put up against anybody across the country. They are caring about the patient and the family. They're not necessarily caring about glory for themselves. I'm not just talking about research, and research is important. I'm not just talking about teaching. Teaching is important. I'm talking about overall for the family, medical care, nursing care, social work needs, psychology needs, school teacher, just all the way down to housekeeping.
I enjoy, walking alongside families during those hard times. Every patient that comes in through Children's Mercy or through the hematology oncology division can expect to have a social worker follows them through the diagnosis discussion, through the treatment, survivorship, and even bereavement. I think the biggest fear is the unknown, but it is important that they learn to know what the disease is and teach that to their children. And a lot of times, they themselves become advocates for other patients. They build their own support group, and they even sometimes come up with foundations to assist other families that are going through the same thing.
I think there is a tremendous things which we are doing here at Children's Mercy, which we can reflect back in some of the other international places to help patients better. And when we see them in the clinic, we reassure them, we have a big group here. You can always reach us any time of the day, 24/7. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to work with you and make sure your child is doing okay. And I think that is comforting for the family to know whom to call.
I am a nurse practitioner in the emergency department and urgent cares. They now do blood sampling, which is like really easy. I think there's 3 different types that they do, and it can test the child for that disease. My mom didn't know when I was born that I had the disease, and we didn't find out until I was almost an adolescent. So I would have these pain episodes, and she would always think I was pulling muscles. I ended up in an adult facility, and the adult facility wanted to test and treat me for lupus and cancer and leukemia and all of these other diseases without even thinking that I had sickle cell. And my mom was like, okay, no, this is enough, and had me transferred to Children's Mercy, and they found out like within 24 hours that this is what I was dealing with all this time. I just was never diagnosed. So I have a 10-year-old, and he has sickle cell. He doesn't have to experience what the average child with sickle cell SS experiences because I prevent those things from happening. Usually when he has his pain episodes, I tell him to breathe through it. I coach him and help him breathe through it, because the first thing we want to do is scream because it hurts so bad. And when you scream and you cry, it makes it worse. And to also just try to think about the positive, because things can always be worse.
Well, I like science, I like parties, I like sports, I like gym, recess, and sometimes I like to fix things.
With being around these kids for such a long time, I have gotten attached to them, and I just love them to death, and I think that they feel the same way about me. We've helped them grow up. Like, we've taken care of them all their lives, and we've seen how they've grown and seen how they've become such young adults and seen how they're starting to mature. And I've been to camp once, and it's one of the best places I've ever been. They have some of the best food ever. The kids are totally different when they're there. They're just like totally different kids outside of the hospital. They get to have water balloon fights, they get to go horse riding, they get to go swimming. It's just a great place for these kids to go.
Parents are not allowed at sickle cell camp. This is just for our patients and their siblings. We do take their siblings with us. Yeah. Goal is to allow children to have a camp experience that they wouldn't ordinarily get to have, because a lot of the parents are fearful of letting their kids with sickle cell disease go to an overnight camp because they don't know that the people there will be able to take care of their medical needs. They don't have to worry about that. They still worry because they're parents, but they don't have to worry about that at sickle cell camp, because we always have one of our sickle cell physicians. We always have nursing, psychology support, child life. Everybody is there. Pain management is not just the medications, the IVs, the things that are very necessary for pain control of an acute vaso-occlusive episode, but pain management is also on the psychological end too, because pain, no matter what the cause, is a mixture of the physiological and the psychological. So that psychological piece is very important.
With new medications and new treatments and things coming out, I think that there's hopefully a very, very positive future for them. I'm excited to see what some of these studies show and some of these medications that can help these patients stay out of the hospital, stay pain-free for longer, and just to live a more normal life and stay out of the hospital. Sickle cell is not contagious. It's a genetic disease. They're born with the disease. They didn't get it from someone. They can't give it to anybody. That they're just living with it and trying to deal and live as normal of a life as possible.
Most kids, I believe, are diagnosed at birth or very early on. If there was a kid that was just being diagnosed at the age of 6 or 7, they would probably have been experiencing a painful episode or having some type of medical crisis that would have brought on this news. So we would go in and we would talk to them about how kids with sickle cell disease do still get to go to school, and they do still get to have all of those opportunities that kids around them are also able to have. I know of a lot of kids that still run track and play volleyball and do competitive club sports, and they still do play sports for their schools, and they still can go on to college and become doctors and nurses and chaplains and all of those professional roles. Wherever they set the bar for themselves, they can achieve that. I'd tell the parents the same thing.
There's not an objective way to measure pain. We have kids that live with pain every day of their life, and they learn how to live with it and do things, but that doesn't mean they're not having pain. And I think just providing education to healthcare providers, family members, anyone, so that they can better understand what's going on with that patient is something that we do every day.
Sometimes I think there's a misconception about what sickle cell is. I will call a school and I will say, this patient is in, can we please get started with homework? And a common response is, he was fine yesterday. Like, I don't even know what happened. He didn't look any different, and that's the thing about sickle cell. And there's no real outward appearance unless they have suffered a stroke. One, they need water. They need to be drinking water whenever they can. They need a break to go get water. They need to have a water bottle at their desk. They need to go to the bathroom frequently. They need to stand up. They need to move around. They need to be very mindful of seasonal changes, temperature changes from room to room.
I get to work with kids every day. What's better than that? Getting to come, interact with them, play with them on a day-to-day basis, and it's just amazing. Children, I think, they've got it figured out. I think as adults, if we could live the life through the eyes of a child, I think the world would be a better place. When my time comes to hang my white coat up and be at the end of my career, I think that would be the biggest thing I'd like to see, is just advancement in the research, knowing that if we spend the time and effort and money into doing the research now in the pediatric population, I know without a doubt that as they advance into adulthood, their lives are going to be better, their complications are going to be decreased, and their life expectancy is going to be lengthened. They need people that are devoted to them and improving their disease and livelihood. I think it's something, it's an area in medicine that needs addressed, and good people there to help them.
The Heartland Sickle Cell Disease Database study is a study that was initiated by Dr. Allison King over at Washington University, St. Louis. She invited 7 institutions to participate across Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, and Nebraska, and we are one of those 7 institutions, taking into consideration both adult and children patients. The Heartland Sickle Cell Disease Database project is just a great way to look at new treatment options and to communicate that with our patients. And it's just exciting to be on the verge of something that's going to improve care for these kids who deal with chronic pain.
A few years ago, we were able to participate in a study that was just recently FDA approved. So it's a very exciting time in the sickle cell community. In research, there's a lot of new drugs that are being developed. Early results are showing some promise.
There's a lot that we don't know about sickle cell disease. That's changing right here at Children's Mercy Hospital through research and education. Through grants, donations, and internal fundraising, we will continue funding our efforts to eradicate this disease. 2 simple treatments can help extend the lives of those with sickle cell disease: penicillin and blood transfusions. Our quest continues to educate patients, families, the public, and those in the medical profession as to the physical and psychological treatments necessary to provide comfort and hope well into the future for those affected with sickle cell disease. For more information, call Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City, Missouri at 816-302-6808 or contact us online at www.childrensmercy.org/sickle-cell-disease.